right, so Tim, what do you think what are your thoughts on knocks?
Okay, so I've heard a lot of different theories about what a knocks could be. Mine myself, from what I've been experiencing in my research, from things I've caught on, like on my thermal camera, from hearing the knocks myself, I'm really wondering if it could be them like coming in or out of the dimensions, and the knock is like a like when the airplane comes through the sound barrier and you hear that boom.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it could be something like that, like on a smaller scale, like a little boom on a smaller scale, is what I wonder about that sometimes.
As in, like something like some kind of a threshold being
like coming through the
broken.
veil or a threshold.
Yeah, some kind of a, for lack of a better term, you hear us use terms like veil. You know, the threshold. I use threshold a lot of times when I talk about these vocals.
Yeah.
So you think maybe something, the sound itself, the knock itself could be
like that little boom.
The event horizon, so to speak.
Yeah, like that.
The breaching.
Yeah, breaching and coming through our dimension or going back through to another dimension.
Okay. Have you ever heard knocks have you ever heard knocks that form patterns?
No, I haven't. No, not. I've heard. Most of the time when I hear a knock, it's usually a single knock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have heard like one or two, like two at a time maybe. But I don't really remember like hearing like one over here, one over there, like triangle.
Yeah.
I haven't actually heard that myself.
And so the knocks, have you, from what you can recall, and don't get me wrong, just because you say you don't remember something doesn't mean you go back in another video and you go, I completely forgot about that. Because that happens all the time.
Oh yeah, it sure does.
When you've been doing this for a while, you will forget a lot of things.
Yep.
And you'll be like, I'll be doggone, you know. But double knocks, double taps, have you ever called out to the wilderness and any kind of responses like that before?
No, I haven't, no. And part of that's because I've grew up hunting and I've always been quiet in the woods. So I haven't really, it took me a little while too to actually just like start talking to them. And at first you feel kind of foolish when you start talking to them. But after a little bit, you know that they're there, you know they can hear you. So after a little while you get a little more comfortable with it. But I've been real quiet in the woods most all my whole life.
So you think? Okay, so all right, so let's let me ask you something on the knocks. So you think the knock sound itself is like the threshold being breached?
Yeah, being breached. Yeah.
Something breaching or penetrating our reality, so to speak. And
because again, that goes back to quantum physics with there being 11 dimensions, maybe even more. So that's what I really do think. Yeah. Plus, I've talked to a psychic before that she said that when she first actually talked to him, the first time she got real sick, and when she talked to him another time later on, she said they told her she got sick because they were actually traveling through a different plane. Like going through dimensions, that's what made her sick.
Have you ever had the sounds of knocks and vocals that you could distinguish with your own hearing? Have you ever had anything like tied together, or is it kind of sparsed out?
I've caught it on audio recorder, but not hearing it with my own ears. But I've caught it on audio recorder by leaving it out in the swamp for like 3 or 4 days. And I could hear them during the night, like making knocks and grunts, like they're communicating almost like three cavemen communicating with each other, going back and forth. Okay,
but let me ask you this a second here. Okay, so if you think about something based upon what he was saying, that he thinks there's some kind of a threshold, something breaching, and that could be the sound that we're hearing. Let me introduce something called, I think it's called Plato's cave. It's an allegory of some sort right here. So don't laugh at me. I'm pulling a lot of this stuff off my memory right here of what the correct terms were called. But as Plato's cave, what it was that the men were in the cave, and they're seeing their shadow on the wall from a light source behind them that's outside the cave, to my understanding, if I remember right. I can't remember where the fire was at, but anyway, what they're doing is they're looking at their shadows on the wall. All right. So if you think about it, okay, in Plato's cave, the men are frightened of their own shadows, even though the shadows are projected by them. But the shadows are not them, they're shadows. So as we start seeing shadow creatures and shadow men and stuff like that, which I will tell you is absolutely 100% legitimate and real. It has happened to me enough to definitely, I don't have any doubt in my mind that the shadow beings happen. I've had enough encounters with them. Could it be that coming across these shadow creatures are kind of maybe that threshold stuff in Plato's cave, as in like maybe the light source behind the men is like the threshold, the barrier. And when you see a shadow person or interact with a shadow person, I'm going to call it a person or a creature or whatever have you, and that the shadow you see is actually them, is what you see projected in your reality. You know, and this is why we see them kind of interacting with us and darting with us. Sometimes people are touched by these shadow things and so forth. Could it be something like this, and that in our physical reality we can only see the shadow of them? You see what I'm saying? Wow. That we can only see the shadow of them. Even though there's something legitimately there, there's a barrier in between us. And what we see in our reality is the shadow of them being projected in our reality. So
that's
that would be something.
Yeah.
That would be something in essence, possibly as something in another dimension of some sort. And you don't even want to hear. You don't even want to hear what I think about time. You don't want to hear. I've been putting a lot of thought into time about what's going on. But I will tell you this much: Tom came out here and told me when he was sensing spots that I took him to, he was sensing the areas, and he said they're on a different time. That's what he said. He said they're on a different time, and there's something about it that I'll go back and look at the video, but he mentioned that they're on a different time. So, by the way, everybody, Tom is recovering, doing really well. I got a text from his wife, doing really well. And thanks to everybody out there for all the thoughts and prayers on Tom. Keep it up, and he's still in a recovery phase, people. So let's keep him in our thoughts and good prayers here. All right.
I've heard another person say that as well. Robin Haynes McRae. She was
who is she though? She's ringing a bell.
She's in, I actually first learned of her. She's in Jason Kinsey's Searching for Sasquatch documentaries. She's up in like his second or third documentary where he introduces her and he's talking to her. And she grew up like mentally talking to Sasquatch, and as a kid she thought everybody did. She didn't know she was doing something different, like telepathy with the Sasquatch. But she's mentioned that as well. She said that when they were went into another dimension, their time was different. So she said the same exact thing. Yeah, I'm actually friends with her now on Facebook, and I have interacted with her just a little as far as conversation, just on a real small scale.
Yeah, well, you know, some physicists and scientists say it in their scientific speak. You know, they kind of say it in their scientific jargon, the way they used, that if it wasn't for gravity, there would be no time. And so gravity has a lot to do and everything to do with time. And even Einstein did the experiment down, I think they went down into South America. What they did was they was trying to see if gravity could bend light and things like this. And we all know how a lot of things are based upon the speed of light, and a lot of things in the physics and in the quantum explanation of things a lot of it is rooted and based upon time and gravity and how all the elements interact. And I'm beginning to think more and more and more that we've heard this before and said by many people before, even physicists, is that everything in the universe is connected. And if you think about it, when you go to these places that we're in, okay, and how things can follow you home, and how entanglements can occur. A lot of people say, "Oh, there's an attachment." I just like to call it. I call it an entanglement. There's a reason why something is connected to you somehow. There's some type of an entanglement occurring, and the entanglement can even go into your dreams, and a lot of things like that. People. So it's a very interesting field of study that you can spend some time in, so long as you don't go too deep in the rabbit hole, because the rabbit hole has a tendency to not let you out once you get down in it.
Yeah, it sure can. Yeah.
I know I've had things happen to me in my sleep and my state, and it's even spilled over into my wife as well. There was one time that I heard as clear as day. There was like this ring, like a giant ring. It was so strong that it, for lack of a better term, I was awakened by it. And I was thinking that was almost in my head, but I don't see the dog being disturbed, because normally she would be barking and stuff like that. So I didn't see anything physically going around me, but I heard this ring clear as day. My wife tells me later that day, she said, "Did you hear that bell or whatever?" She said it to me later during that day, and I was like, "Oh my God, you heard it too?" I thought that was in my head, and something was messing with me again. She said, "No, I heard it too." But the dog didn't give us any indication of hearing it or anything like that at all. So did it happen to both of us simultaneously in our head? Well, those are things that I would call like entanglements. So let me get your take on that with dreams, and has anything happened to you?
Yeah, I've had a couple of dreams too that I believe were entangled like that. One of them I had was of two young Sasquatch juveniles, and in my dream, which seems so real that I really remember it really strongly, is they got right up close in my face. I could see their dark skin. They had like a dark gray skin. They had black hair, both of them. They showed me their teeth. Their teeth looked almost exactly like ours. One of them, he took off running and came back so quick, just to show me their speed. And it was almost like he just went into a puff of smoke almost and came right back. He was showing me how fast they could run. And I believe this was actually an entanglement, because this was after I had come back from a day of research, and then I had that dream during the night. Also had another dream one day after we were out in the woods, out in the green swamp. And I had found this old barbed wire fence, because some of these properties out here used to belong to other people in the past at times.
Right, homestead.
Yeah, homesteads, and they had cattle and stuff like that. So I found this old barbed wire fence, and part of it was down. It was all rusty and all. But then later that night, I had a dream that a red Sasquatch was telling me go look at the fence. And when I did, I looked at the barbed wire fence in my dream. There was red hairs on the barbed wire fence from that red Sasquatch.
Well, they say we call him Big Red.
Big Red,
His nickname is Big Red.
Big Red, that's right.
That guy has been seen a few times out here.
Yep.
And everybody just kind of collectively calls him Big Red.
Yep. Also, I have times where, like if I hear something during the night, my dog's laying on the bed too, and if I hear something, I'll look up at her and see if she heard it too, because she'll just stand up and look. And usually if I hear something, she hears it too. So yesterday morning, like real early in the morning, like a lot of times I'll wake up like around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I'll wake up and I'll lay there a little while, I'll go back to sleep until it's time to get up to go to work. But I was laying there trying to go back to sleep, and I don't know if I was dreaming or if I really heard this, but I heard what sounded like what people say an 800-pound owl outside my back window. Yeah. And as soon as I heard that, I sat up and looked at my dog to see if she heard it, see if she responded. And she didn't. She was still laying there asleep. I looked at Lynette. She was still laying there asleep. And I mentioned it to her yesterday too, and she didn't. She says she didn't hear nothing like that. So I don't know if I dreamed that or if I really heard it, because I was kind of laying there like half asleep, half awake. And I don't, with it sounding like an owl or something, my dog might not have responded to that anyway. We have roosters and stuff that we hear in the mornings, and she don't respond to nothing like that. So I'm just wondering if I really heard that or not, or if that's some kind of entanglement. But that's another one of those. If it was a dream, it's another one that really stands out.
Yeah. Well, if you go upon the idea, okay, if you go upon the idea and you say, in a quantum mechanical, quantum scientific explanation of the universe,
Mm-hmm.
and if you say everything is connected to some extent somehow by the elements, being touching, the elements of the atoms are all touching and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Does space have like is space made up of something that's like a gel material, even though we call it a vacuum?
Mm-hmm.
But on another level, is there something there that facilitates a connection of some sort? I even seen this one video that I thought was very amazing, how they were discussing that everything is connected, and that even consciousness is, how did they phrase it? Consciousness. I'm trying to think what it was. I need to go back and study the video, but or listen to it. It was a very interesting discussion that they had. How even consciousness was like alive,
Mm-hmm.
of some sort, is what they were discussing,
Mm-hmm.
and how it is facilitating the interactions, and because realistic, when you think about it, what is our reality? If you think about it, our brains are encapsulated inside of bone.
Yeah.
Our brains are inside darkness.
Yep.
And so your brain doesn't have any sense of reality. All this green, all this, everything out of the sky, the ground, the earth, you have no perception or any kind of conscious thought of it other than your senses.
Yep. That's right.
Your senses are the one feeding this stuff to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah.
And your brain assimilates it, puts it all together, and says,
Mhm.
this is reality.
Mm-hmm.
This is the world that I live in.
Yeah.
So even the very notion of consciousness is a very fascinating and deep subject. And AI
Mm-hmm.
is going to have a lot to do with, I think, in the future with consciousness as well. Could be a deadly game. It could be a deadly game we play.
Something fell on a palmetto
Sounded like
leaf.
something dropped on that palmetto, even though
Yeah.
my camera wasn't running,
Yeah.
and could just be something fell out of the tree and hit it. So let's continue on. So what I was saying was that, here's two old men. By the way, Tim and I are the same age,
Yeah, we are.
and I get to call myself an old guy because, even though I don't feel old, but this truth is truth, and I'm
pretty
not that
fit.
far from retirement.
We're pretty fit too.
All right,
for our
so
age.
what I was saying,
Yeah.
I was making it funny about, here's two old men out in the woods out here doing nothing with their time but knocking on tuning forks. But we're saying that the justification is based upon the Tesla's saying that he had, was that if you want to unlock the secrets of the universe, would be to study and to do everything to do with energy, vibration, and frequency.
Yeah.
So this is the reason why we're doing it. We're creating the energy, and we're obviously creating the vibration and the frequencies. And these
Yep.
tuning forks are frequencies.
And we've done some of the same thing too with the tone generator on our phones.
All right, so this is 963. It doesn't last as long.
So again, that was something subtle. A big old leaf fell right there behind you the first time you did that.
It's very hard to hear that. It's a lot of disturbance going on because of the
Yes, yeah.
airplane over our head right now. Okay, so let's go do a low frequency. 174 hertz. And it's very breezy right now. Maybe it'll calm the wind, huh?
Yeah.
this vibrates for a while.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
It's still vibrating. I didn't notice anything going on around us out of anything unusual. All right, so let's try something else here.
I'm holding the microphone here like that, so that's why
Okay,
Chris
hit
was
that.
holding the...
Hit stop it. No.